It's been a while since my last video, but I've been taking it easy over the last 2 weeks, giving myself a little holiday over the Christmas and New Year period. But it's already a week into 2018 and I've got a lot of material, a lot of stories I want to share in the coming months. In my last video I started on the stories of 2016, and I've been looking through my dream diary, and although I had a lot of dreams in that year, I didn't have many lucid dreaming experiences. In all, I think I've got about 10 which I want to share, and these are also at different levels of lucidity, but you'll understand them when I tell them. So what I'm going to do is use 3 videos to cover all those 10 experiences, giving you 3 stories in every video, 4 in one of them, and then that'll bring me up to 2017 when I first started my out-of-body practice and really intensified my experiences, taking them out the spontaneous lucid dreaming stage to something that was a serious practice. So over the next few months, once I've finished with 2016 in these next 3 videos, then I want to cover all the experiences I had in 2017 during my first year of intense and directed practice, and that'll bring me up to date 2018, and that's really exciting because I feel already that my practice is taking me to a new level of experiences, a new level of practice, a new level of induction into out-of-body states, a deeper understanding of what's happening, how to get there, what the relationship is between dreaming, lucid dreaming, astral travel, all of them out-of-body experiences. And I have a really deep feeling from the last experiences that I've had, mostly the latest experiences I've had, that I'm on the verge of getting some much more profound insight, and that is really exciting for me. But that's to come. So let me start with the stories from 2016. So this first one is from the 4th of February 2016, and happened in the middle of the night, just one of my regular dreams that turned lucid. Before I'd gone to sleep, I'd made the intention that I would become lucid in my dreams, and it happened. And this particular episode, I was in a town, I think it was England, North England, and I was in conversation with a young couple, a guy and a girl, who were musicians, and they told me they had an audition with a famous top playwright, probably to make music for his play. That's what I assumed. And then the dream skips and it's projected a little bit further into the future, and I'm still talking with these couple, and they tell me they won the audition, and now they were busy putting posters up around the town for a celebration concert they were giving. And then the dream skipped again, further into the future. This time I'm standing on the stage of a local amateur theatre, town theatre, and I'm standing behind the curtains. I can peer through them and I can watch people coming into the auditorium, sitting down, and the two musicians were with me, and they're preparing to give this concert. And they looked a little nervous, but really it's me who should have been nervous, because I was the MC. I was supposed to introduce them. And it's at that point, I'm sure, that my lucidity started to develop, to find myself in this strange situation, and maybe a little bit of nervousness brought it on as well, and but not to flee it. Normally, if I find myself in an uncomfortable situation in my dreams, I have the tendency to wake myself up out of it. But the lucidity I held on to and let it develop, and used it as a sort of challenge not to wake up, but to see how far I could go with it. So I accepted my role as MC and thought, well, okay, this is a dream, everything's going to be okay, I can't do anything wrong. And there came the point that I had to open the curtains and step out onto the stage in front of the audience, and I couldn't get the curtains open because right in the middle they were all laced together, and it was difficult to get all the laces out. And it was getting complicated, and I know how when things get complicated in dreams, you lose yourself in them and they become really absurd. So I stepped back and I called a couple of stage hands to actually do this work for me, leaving it up to them. And this is important to note, because later on in this experience I get somebody else to do something for me when it starts getting too complicated. So these stage hands, they manage to get the curtains open, and I step out, the curtains are open and I step out into the middle of the stage, and to get past a little bit of my anxiousness in front of this big audience, I played it a little cool. I made a joke about the curtains and not being able to get through them, and pretty much blamed that on the amateurishness of the theatre, and got them all smiling and loosened up a little bit. And in the corner of my eye I could see the couple settling down on their chairs waiting to give the concert. They had one guitar, and I think the guy was playing guitar and the girl would be singing along with the guy. I don't know what their act was because I'd never heard their music. But I was about to introduce them, and I realised I did not know their names. Freaky situation if it ever happens in real life, but in dreams it's not so comfortable either. And then it occurred to me that, well, if this is just a dream, it doesn't matter what names I use. Let's just make up a couple of names and see what happens. So I did. I made up a couple of names and I said, he is so-and-so and so-and-so, enjoy the concert, and stepped down onto the side of the stage where I just sat and viewed the audience. And I started to feel more uncomfortable because the music didn't start, and I got the feeling that the two musicians didn't know their music. Were also in a situation where they didn't know what they were supposed to be doing. And this was quite amusing, a little bit uncomfortable, but also really amusing. And I was watching the audience in front of me, especially the front row, making a note of all the people who were sitting there. And at that point, I felt the dream fading. And I thought, oh, I'm going to wake up if I'm not careful now. And I think I did. Just for a fraction of a second I woke up, but I did not want to lose this experience, so I made a very, very strong conscious intention to actually get back into it, focused myself on that first row and the whole dream experience, so that I would not lose it. And I found myself back in it. And I waited until it got stable. There was still no music being played. There was still that uncomfortable atmosphere. And the people in the front row were exactly the same people as I just left for a fraction of a second. And I thought, well, I've got to get out of here. So I left the room, leaving everything in the hands of these musicians. It's their problem, not mine. And headed for the bar. And there was a doorway and a stairway, dark stairway up onto the bar area. I seem to know my way around this theatre. So I walked up towards the bar area, and on the stairs I came across an attractive girl coming down the other way. And we got talking, and we got flirting with each other, which is always a fun part of these sort of experiences. But girls are distractions. These sort of experiences are distractions. But I was happy enough to fall for this distraction this time, so I flirted with her, and I think I said something like, well, you know, I may wait for you if you decide to come back. And she said something like, well, I may come back. So I left her and I walked up to the bar, expecting that sometime she would be there again, and looking forward to that actually. But while I was waiting at the bar, there was a big queue at the bar, and I had to wait for my turn. She turned up again, but this time she's with a guy, and I made sure I knew who that guy was, and it turned out to be a brother or a friend or something, nothing special, so I was happy with that. And the guy said, well, we have to go, but we'll be back in a few minutes if you can order the drinks. And the crowd had cleared, they went away, I'm at the bar, and I started towards the drinks. I didn't even have to ask what they wanted because the barman knew them and knew what they drank. So I said, okay, you pour the drinks and pour me a beer. While I was busy doing that, I realised, oh dear, I've left my bag with my wallet in, downstairs in the theatre. I'm not going to have to get that. And again, I know in previous dreams, if I ever have to go back anywhere to fetch something, I lose my way, I can't get there, or it's a long, long way out, and I get lost, and the dream gets complicated, and my lucidity goes, and then eventually I wake up. So I really had to concentrate that I would not lose my lucidity. And I knew beforehand I just have to go down the stairs, and the auditorium's going to be there, and I know where I left my bag, it's going to be there, which is what I did. I walked down the stairs, got into the auditorium, and I noticed that the concert is over. I hadn't heard any music. This is 5 minutes after I'd left the auditorium, and the concert's all over. And I was tempted to go and talk to the musicians and ask how they got on, because they're busy packing up and people are getting up out of the seats and leaving the auditorium, and I thought, no, it's not my business, it's not my problem, I really don't want to get into that. So I found my bag, picked it up, went back to the bar. And here comes the complicated side again. I have to pay. I suppose I could have said, well, no, it's a dream, I don't want to pay, but again, it was interesting to see how far I could go with this. If I could get some complicated manoeuvres happening and keep the focus without it going all to pot. So I asked if I could pay with my card, and they brought out the machine, and I went in my bag to find my wallet. I pulled my wallet out, opened it up, and my card isn't in there. It seemed to have fallen out into the bottom of my bag. So I fished in there again, pulled what I thought was my card out, and it's just the card holder. So I dive into my bag again, find my card eventually, and pull that out and slot it into the machine. It's not the end of it, because then I have to punch in my code, and I remember my code, which is quite special. I remember my code, but I still can't punch it in because the keys are really too small to just punch one number in it at a time, and it gets complicated, and then the machine is giving me weird figures all over the place and weird instructions. It doesn't seem to be working, and that's the point I say, well, you know, this is getting too complicated for me, I have to give it over to somebody else. And I called a barmaid and said, you do it for me, because it's got to be easier for them to do it. And I gave her my code and let her type that in, but she couldn't get it working either. And even though I got to this quite special point of focus and concentration, it still didn't enable me to keep the dream going on any longer. I already felt it starting to fold, and I was already aware that there were too many complications, small complications that distracted me, which is what makes it fold. And I felt myself slipping out of it and waking up with a sort of regret, because I couldn't stay long enough to wait for that girl to turn up again. So I woke up from that one. But really interesting experience to look back on and record the development of awareness within these sort of states. It's all a question of awareness, and the more awareness, the more control you have within these situations. But that was our dream. Let's move on to the next one. So this next one happened 3 days later, still in February. But this one was only short. I did have the intention the night before that I would, if I had a lucid dream, I would attempt to alter my environment. And I found myself in a town again. Seemed to recognise it, seemed to feel at home where it was a North English town again. But I'm not in the town itself. I'm on a sort of field surrounded by the town. It's like a village green or something. And there's some people walking around. There's dogs and other animals. I don't know what that sort of animals. I think it might have been sheep or something like that, walking around, and everybody and everything seemed very, very parched, as if it hadn't rained for months and months and months. Everything was dry, it was hot. Even the dogs weren't running around, they were strolling around slowly with their tongues hanging out. I got this idea that there'd been a drought, and in front of me, or I had some connection with a couple of old ladies there, and I think they were telling me what was happening. I can't remember what they said now. I remembered though that I had the impression they were witches, but good witches, and they were certainly friendly, so there was nothing to to be scared about. I also got the impression that they tried something themselves, being witches, but it hadn't worked. And they were looking to me to try something. Maybe they knew I was dreaming, and I didn't belong there. I don't know. Anyway, I remembered, because I knew I was lucid then, that I should have the power to actually change something in my environment. I wasn't lucid enough to remember my intention when I went to sleep, but I did remember that I could do this sort of stuff. So I tried it. This is the first ever time I've ever tried to change something really important. So I lifted my arms up to the sky. I mean, the sky was cloudless, and it was hot, and it was blue sky, and I just waved my hands about, imagining the sky filling up with grey clouds, storm clouds that would rain. And it was amazing to watch, because they did. Storm clouds gathered, I pulled them towards the centre of the sky above the village, and the next minute it's pouring down with rain. It was an amazing feeling. The atmosphere changed, people were dancing about, jumping about, the dogs were running about. So I felt really happy that I'd been able to do something for myself special, but also for this community. And I didn't wait around though, I didn't wait around to be thanked or anything. I felt that sense of gratitude anyway in the air. And I moved on. And the next scene, I'm in the town itself, but this time I'm in I think a car or some other kind of transport. I'm not aware of what I'm sitting in, but I'm sitting in something and driving and down this narrow road, and I can see it from me. I can see the buildings on one side and I can see this bus or tram coming towards me. And I only have about that much gap between the building and this bus to drive through. And part of me is saying, there's no way you can get through there with this car you're in. And then another side of me is saying, yeah, but this is a dream. Of course I can get through there. I don't know how I managed to get through there, but it's possible. And I was aware enough to allow it, to let's see. It was sort of like I was saying to myself, let's see what does happen if I don't, stop, turn around. Let's see if I try, let's see what happens if I try to get through that little gap. And I got through it, no problem. I didn't feel like I was squeezed or anything. Maybe I shrunk in size. Can't explain these sort of things. But I got through it without any scratch, without any problem with the bus and thing. And then the dream ended. After that I don't remember anything of it, whether I just carried on sleeping or whether I woke up. But thinking back again, it was such an amazing new experience for me. This awareness to see a situation, two situations actually. One, conscious that I could change the environment and make something happen, and two, that something that seems impossible in a dream state is not impossible, and just go for it and prove to yourself that having trust in these things works. So, not a very profound, fantastical story, but immensely powerful for me as an experience and a step further in my development. Let's move on. So in the months that followed, I had a lot of normal dreams without being lucid, but that were special in their own way. But they're not what I want to discuss here. So I'm going to skip forward because the next real lucid dream of any importance happened in August. So it skips 4 or 5 months. And this one was also very short, really. But it's probably the most moving experience I've had to date, even including all my out-of-body experiences. And you'll know why when I tell it. I don't know what got me to the lucidity. It was almost just a natural feeling that I needed to be here, and there was no question of, no surprise about being lucid. And no desire to play with it, because I was sitting at the bed, the hospital bed, of a young girl, about 8 or 9 years old. And this girl was dying because she had terminal cancer. And she was very weak and very sad, and I felt more like a sort of guardian angel. Not that I'd come to collect her or anything, but just to give her some comfort in her last days, I suppose. And she said to me at one point, we were talking for a little while, and she said to me the thing that she regrets mostly is that she can't dance anymore. And she loved to dance. And I said to her, well, you can. You can dance if you want to still. She said, no, I'm too weak, I can't get out of my bed. And I moved a little way from the bed and I put out my hand for her to put her hand into. And I said, no, just reach out to my hand and I'll show you. And she reached out to my hand, but as she did do, I pulled my hand a little bit further back. So she had to then sit up to lean out of bed a little bit to reach my hand. And I pulled back a little bit further and she had to lean a little bit further and she finally took hold of my hand. And she was almost out of bed at that point. And I said, well, you're almost out of bed, stand up. So she stood up. I said, see, if you can stand up, now you can dance. And we danced a little bit. And I could see her energy changing, or sense her energy changing. A smile on her face, she seemed a lot happier. And we moved out the room into the corridor, the hospital corridor, and we were just dancing together, just swirling around, silly little dance, waving our arms. And then suddenly people came from other rooms, nurses, but other patients as well. The whole crowd came out and started dancing too. And I stepped back. I let the girl go. She was so in full abandon and happy and just laughing and whooping and making great contact with these other people as they were dancing together. And I moved back a few yards just to watch what was happening and enjoy this new energy that was flowing from this young girl. I didn't have any sense that I'd cured her, just that I'd given her something special, some extra help to overcome her low energy, if that makes sense. So I'm watching them dancing, and then suddenly I notice the girl stops, and she looks in my direction, but past me to the end of the corridor, and she's looking very, very solemn. The other people are still dancing, but she's stopped, and she walks up towards me, and she stops by me. She throws her arms around my middle and gives me a big squeeze, and she's got tears in her eyes. She's looking extremely sad again. I ask her what's up, and she says, I have to paraphrase, I don't really remember the words she used, but she said something in the effect of, she knows she's going to die, and she's fine with that, everything's going to be alright. But her father thinks she's going to get better, and her father's going to be really disappointed. And she feels the sadness, not for herself, but for her father. And I glanced back behind me, and at the end of the corridor, by the door, is a man. I presume it's her father, and he's looking at her, and he is devastated. So I say to this girl, well, you better go to him then. And she lets go of me, and she walks to her father, and I watch her go, and I watch her link up with this man, arm in arm or hand in hand, and they walk out the corridor through the door, and I never see them again. And I woke up then, and I think I woke up with tears in my eyes as well, but also this mixture of deep sadness for her or for her father, but also joy that I'd been able to help her, and even a deeper joy that she knew everything was going to be okay. Not okay that she would survive, but okay that she was going to die, and it's not the end of everything. She was content with her situation, and I can't really describe. I know how I feel when I hear these stories from other people, but to have the feeling yourself, that sense of everything is going to be okay, and also the sense of having managed to convey that understanding to somebody else and they felt it themselves, I really feel like I'd done a service in that dream. I can't say if the girl was a real girl who existed in my time, or whether it was another realm, another dimension, a projection, a dream, imagination. I really don't know, but the sense I got from it was really, really strong, and for my own experience, that was really valuable. So as I say, that's one of the most moving experiences I've had in any of my dreams or out-of-body experiences to date. But I'll leave you to ponder that yourself, what it means or what it really was that happened. And I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye.